Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight for Meet the Candidates for the LARCS election. I'm Ashley Blair, and the Director of Community Services for Ladera Ranch Community Services, or known as LARC. We have a few staff members here this evening and a few board members I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce. We have Ken Gibson here, who's our General Manager. We have Todd Stearns from the LARCS Board of Directors, Armando Rutledge, we have Jay Rogers, and then we have Tony from LARMAC, and we have Sean as well. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Just wanted to remind everyone that LARCS, we are an independent community services organization built on the strong fabric of encouraging neighborhood interaction through technology, programs, activities, and a spirit of volunteerism. LARCS promotes communication among our neighbors, our organizations, our alliances and businesses through Ladera Life, Ladera Happenings, and our social media channels on Instagram and Facebook. We are primarily funded through the community enhancement fee. It's a one-time fee that's paid at the resale of any home in Ladera Ranch. I am pleased to announce this evening that we do have two candidates that are running for one open seat on the board of directors, as Joya Chelik and Anne-Marie Uhas. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here. There's an opportunity for homeowners to hear from the candidates before voting for the candidate of their choice, and that is the intent of tonight of Meet the Candidates night. Ty Vote, who is handling the election for us through LARMAC, and that's the organization that all residents will use to place their vote. The voting will open starting tomorrow. Notifications will be going out via email if you've opted in for email communication. If you have not, then you'll receive it via old school mail in your mailbox. If you don't receive it, you can reach out to Ty Vote. That information is on Ladera Life, and how you can reach out to them and receive your login information, and then on how to process your vote online. Once you do vote online, you are grandfathered into voting online for all future elections for LARCS and LARMAC. Voting will conclude at 5 p.m. Friday, May 31st. So thank you again for joining us. I'm now going to kick it off to Ken Gibson, General Manager of LARMAC, to start the Q&A portion of the evening.
We'll start with 3 minutes. We'll start with Joya. So for 3 minutes to just introduce yourself, whatever you'd like to say, talk about why you're running the position, that kind of thing. And then once Joya's done, we'll pass it to you. And then once we've done that, we will go through a series. I have 11 questions. Joya, we'll start with you. 3 minutes. Just introduce yourself and tell us whatever you'd like to tell us.
All right. Well, my name is Joya Chelik. I've been a Ladera resident since 2018. I'm originally from Canada. I lived in the United States since 2000, first in LA for many years, and then moved down to Ladera when my husband got a job in Irvine. We decided to check out all the neighborhoods, and we really loved Ladera as soon as we saw it. I just drove around the first time and I was like, oh my gosh, there's roundabouts. This is the coolest thing ever. And it was so cute and compact, and the schools were great. And I said, okay, I think this is where we want to be. We ended up getting a beautiful house, and sort of right from the beginning, my husband and I kind of got right involved in the community volunteering. We actually, both of us started on the TAC committee before we even lived in Ladera, which is kind of odd, but we closed on our house in February and didn't move in until July. But there was an open position, 2 open positions on TAC, the technology committee, in April, I believe, and so we sat on there before moving, just because we both have a tech background. So we kind of were on the ground running with volunteering. I started being neighborhood rep for Sterling Run 2. This is probably my 4th year as neighborhood rep planning parties. I love to do that for my neighbors, and I also like answering questions for them to help them navigate the world of being a Ladera homeowner. So I've got all the members for them to call, the people to email. I do that. And then I started sitting on the LARCS board as a non-voting member in 2020. So this is my 4th year that I've sat in meetings at LARCS, getting to know how it works, how it runs, being involved in a lot of the decisions, even though I can't vote. They're very graciously take my opinions to heart when we have discussions, which has been very much appreciated.
We'll pass it to you.
This is my poor man's teleprompter. I've got a readings in front of me. First of all, thank you all for being here. I do very much appreciate you making time to listen to what Joy and I have to say tonight. It means a lot. And rather than repeat what I put in my candidate statement on laderalife.com, I'd like to do an icebreaker activity that we used at my former company. And basically, it's just to share something unique about yourself that you think is unique. You could all basically one-up me, but these are my unique things. First of all, I have two things to share. I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune 10 years ago. And the bankrupts and the lose a turn and the letter K, that's all I'm saying, were my downfall. And I was that person that basically walked away with the $1,000 consolatory prize or participation prize, which is very sad. My other thing I wanted to share is that I've lived in 6 states, born and raised in Pennsylvania, went to school in Indiana, University of Notre Dame, go Irish, moved with a job to Illinois, California, Arizona, and South Carolina. There's only 6 states. And California is where I met my husband, Jim, who is here to support me tonight. Say hi, Jim. And he and I have been homeowners in Ladera since 2003. So LARCS. LARCS, as we all know, I believe is an acronym for community and service. So community is about gathering of people living together with a common interest, and service is about action, being helpful, useful, volunteerism. I'd like to be your next LARCS board member because I am passionate about both our Ladera Ranch community and about volunteerism. We have over 8,000 households, bigger than my hometown, and we have lots of diversity. So it's very important to me that LARCS continues to offer the events and programs and volunteer opportunities that are relevant and fun and bring our residents together. I am confident that I can be an effective LARCS director for primarily 3 reasons. One is I keep my commitment as a volunteer. Several things I've done. I've been on the architecture review committee for the past 2.5 years. I wrapped up at the end of last year. I've been a Ladera Ranch hand since April of 2022 for the last 2 years. I have been an usher at the Sagerstrom Performing Arts Center since October of 2022, and I've worked at 26 performances. I was a volunteer at the Phoenix Library when I lived in Phoenix, so every Saturday for 2-3 hours for a year, I shelved books. It's pretty exciting. I am the class secretary for my class at Notre Dame, which means I write a quarterly class notes column for our magazine. And I also help plan the 5-year reunion. And finally, at my church here in Ladera, I am a wedding assistant, and my wedding coordinator is back there supporting me in the back row. My second thing is I have 20 years of professional leadership and management experience at AAA Insurance Company, which, as you all know, hopefully is a member service organization. So during those 20 years, I managed people and budgets and partnered with vendors and collaborated with other departments. I attribute my professional success to strong interpersonal skills and building collaborative relationships. I'm all about the people. That's what makes it work. So I will do that with the LARCS Board, the staff, the volunteers, and the different committees. Finally, I love living in Ladera, much like Julia, and I want to do my part to support our community and participate at the next level by directly contributing to the continued success of the wonderful events and service programs that LARCS has been doing all these years. Thank you.
Great, thank you. What contributions do you feel you can provide if elected?
Like I said, I've been a lot of volunteering within Ladera. I've not just done stuff on the HOA side. I volunteered for the past 6 years at Ladera Ranch Elementary School, the last 3 years on the PTA executive board, and this year I'm the PTA president of our school. I'm also a parent volunteer with both my daughter's Girl Scout troops. So given all that stuff, the neighborhood rep and the TAC, the LARCS Board, PTA, all these things, I just want to say I wear a lot of hats. I get a lot of great perspective and input from different segments of our community, which I love. I just like I'm all kind of over the place. And my 9-to-5 job before moving to Ladera was in communications and social media marketing. I worked at Warner Brothers and ABC in Los Angeles for 15 years on the digital side. So my focus is the majority of my volunteer work, especially as it relates to LARCS, is how we can, as an organization representing homeowners, more effectively communicate to our residents. I spend a lot of time online sharing important community information to local Facebook groups and helping residents wherever I can. I always strive to stay on top of the pulse of the community, and I bring concerns I hear from residents back to LARCS so we can get ahead of any issues. My background in strategic, effective communication has really helped on the LARCS board, and I would love to continue to play that role, but in a voting position. Thank you.
And Marie, what contributions do you feel you can make elected?
I think firsthand, my experience just as a Ladera Ranch resident, attending and volunteering at LARCS events, which I really have been doing over these years. Secondly, my experience as a project manager. I've managed a budget, resources, timelines, deadlines. I've collaborated across the board at all levels with upper management, CEOs, vice presidents, presidents, coworkers, direct reports, vendors. So I think that through my work, I've demonstrated key values of adaptability, accountability, and integrity. And I always had a members first mentality when I worked at AAA, which in this case would be a residents first mentality, which is basically understanding and anticipating the needs of all residents. You know, what's important to them, what LARCS to provide. And thirdly, my experience with communication, also very important to me. Getting the right message to the right people at the right time, I think is critical to ensure full engagement from everybody. And I think that LARCS has excellent effective tools in place between the website, the magazine, the weekly Ladera Happening emails, Facebook, Instagram, like there's so many channels, the signage across the community, like just I saw 2 new signs today promoting garage sale and that kind of thing group. So I think we already do an excellent job with communications. I would just continue to support that until, you know, technology changes. We just have to pivot and go with the changes.
What is your vision for the Ladera Ranch community in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I have always valued and appreciated the events sponsored by LARCS. So my vision is to make sure the events like the 4th of July celebration, the spring celebration, the summer concerts stay at their current outstanding level. I think LARCS just does a bang up job. I really do. And I just want to continue that level. And as with all things, look for opportunities for improvement and really just always look for opportunities to increase participation, you know, just to make sure everyone's taking advantage of everything that's available to them. I think the key things are enhancing existing events with a focus on increased participation, ideate for new events and programs. You know, what is it people would like to see more of or something different? Pivot, volunteer focus depending on need and demand. You know, always making sure we're looking like what's needed out there in the community. And just gather, manage, and prioritize feedback from residents, again, on what it is that we could be doing to really enhance the community experience for them and keep them engaged.
Joya, what is your vision for the Ladera Ranch community in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'll echo what Marie says about the amazing event planning committee and all the people we have at LARCS doing a great job with all the ongoing stuff. I think my vision is kind of informed by things that I'm seeing now happening in Ladera and how I think things can change for the better. I really want to ensure that we as a community are keeping up to the high standards we set for ourselves when Ladera Ranch was founded over 20 years ago. We've always been known as one of the premier family-friendly communities in Orange County. I mean, that's why, like I said, I chose Ladera 6 years ago for my family. Since COVID, we've seen how the actions of board teams and absentee parents can negatively impact our quality of living. Of course, I'm talking about like rising vandalism and disturbing peace in our neighborhood. And what I've appreciated as a result of these incidents is actually that we as a community are coming together more along with local agencies to make meaningful changes to help turn the tide. Our HOA has been meeting regularly with Supervisor Foley's office, the MC Sheriff, Capistrano Unified School District, and our local school principals to work towards solutions. So I want to see more of this type of partnership, and not just for the e-bike problem, but for all concerns that affect us in Ladera. I'm in regular attendance at our civic council and school board meetings, as well as all the local town hall events. So I'm seeing that over time, these conversations are really starting to bring about solutions. I also love how our community is embracing the diversity of its residents and what a positive impact we can make when we all feel seen. I think Ladera can only be a more vibrant community when it values and celebrates all of its residents. The past year has really had such a great breadth of events for every type of resident and family. We've had several new groups gain official LARCS status this past year, and I hope that that energy to organize continues so our community events are more meaningful and fun for all of us.
This is in the spirit of community volunteerism. Please share your volunteer experience in Ladera Ranch.
Okay, so like I said, I spent 4 years on the technology advisory committee. During this time, I also started volunteering with ranch hands at the Spring Festival and the Harvest Festival. various of those bigger community events. I've been our neighborhood rep for the past 4 years, and then I've also been a non-voting member of the LARCS Board since 2020 at my school and PTA and Girl Scouts. Yeah, a lot.
Great, thank you. Anne Marie?
Well, not as extensive as yours. I'm very proud of my work on the architecture review committee with LARCS. I really enjoy seeing all the ongoing improvements that homeowners make, like the pride of ownership in their properties with painting, which pretty much LARMAC enforces, but just like other things like landscaping and changing out the lights and just staying on top of their property to keep it, be a beautiful community. So I've done that I did that for 2.5 years. And like Joya, I participated in the harvest and spring festivals. I was more of a setup person. I enjoyed that part of it. At this last spring fling, Judy reached out to me and said, I need bodies. Can you come help with the egg scramble? So I did that. I had a conflict, so I didn't think I could make it that day, but fortunately it was scheduled for free. I enjoyed just seeing the families out there, the kids enjoying themselves. So that's why I focused primarily on those big events at Founders Park. I think one time I helped with the July setup. And then recently I applied to be neighborhood activities coordinator. So I'm already recruiting a few neighbors to help me with that and figure out how we can stretch that budget. So those are the different activities that I've enjoyed helping out.
LARCS holds service contracts with several large vendors to provide carnival rides, activities, and programs at large scale events. What would be your strategy for evaluating vendor performance as a board member?
So I have extensive vendor management experience in my role as an IT manager. I didn't do a lot of contract negotiation. I did do some where we were at risk of exceeding our agreed upon clicks for their website. And so I negotiated with them to make sure that we wouldn't be incurring extensive charges. But one of the things we put in place were scorecards for the vendors, where we could evaluate them, and we would get the input from the business people, we would get input from the different managers, what is the overall relationship with that vendor, and so we came up with agreed upon categories, and then my job is to reach out to the different teams and get their feedback so we can put together a scorecard and rate them from a scale of 1 to 5, because obviously people might have different perceptions of how, the contracts go in the relationship. So one of the things I would put in place would be those scorecards, so we could come up with criteria to say, okay, this vendor continually shows up late for setup, and so that ride's not ready to go on the day of the event. Or, this vendor has a tendency to have a lot of hidden charges. So we want to create that scorecard so we could basically rate them and have criteria, so that we could compare the vendors against like maybe new people that are coming to us to get a contract. So that would be one of the first things. I don't know if we have that in place, but that would be something we would recommend.
Great, thank you. Joya?
One of the things that we're doing right now, when we're using a lot of these large scale vendors for events, is we do community surveys after the events to see how our residents feel about a lot of the activities we're providing, like how the vendors have been doing. And I've kind of seen firsthand how some of that feedback has directly informed whether we continue with vendors. We've had criticism about certain vendors of long lines. I remember as a parent waiting forever, or not the prizes running out before the event is even over, things like that over the past years, things like that have happened. I really value that feedback. One of our gripes being on the board is that we never get enough of it. And so I think we can do a better job at the outreach, just as far as sharing those surveys and getting the feedback in. We can try to get them in more places so more items can see them, because those are really helpful. Definitely doing the cost comparison across different companies. I know we're already doing that, and that's been really helpful to see the grid of other companies and what they provide and the dollar amounts, especially in light of costs going up across the board. It's really important to see what's the percentage of each of these vendors and what they're bringing them. I also think we can, a lot of us, especially having First Residential, looking across so many communities in Orange County, to pool a lot of that information across the communities, talking to people at San Marcos and Rancho Santa Margarita, seeing how their vendors do and comparing what they're doing. Are we using the same vendor or different? How's your experience been? How's ours been? And getting that feedback too, I think we really help.
Community enhancement fees, which is LARC's primary revenue source, has steadily decreased in recent months due to the low inventory of homes and high interest rates. With factors such as increased contract maintenance costs, minimum wage increases, and the general cost of offering high quality events, what ideas do you have to contain costs and ensure sound fiscal management while meeting the community's needs?
I've seen definitely how all of these things have happened in the past 4 years. And how, we had really, really great home sales when prices were during COVID, it was insane. We had all this extra money. So what would we do with that? And then all of a sudden we're bringing it back in. People don't want to sell their homes. The inventory is very low. Obviously, the COVID stuff is very much of an anomaly. I'm very heartened to see with our current fiscal year that the numbers are getting back up to pre-COVID numbers. Obviously, we're not seeing the giant gains we had during COVID, but the pre-COVID numbers are getting similar. I'm really encouraged by the early results I've seen fiscally with our community partnership program and expanding that. I think potential for that, there's a lot of income there that we can find, that we are finding, and I love that we're expanding that program next year, especially in light of all of these great new businesses that are moving to Ladera. Also, I've been really impressed with recently in the last year or so, we hired a new investment manager for LARCS, Oppenheimer. I feel that their creative solutions around wealth management and diversifying our portfolio has made a marked positive influence on our books in the last year. A lot of stuff where we've had to increase. We've seen a lot of gains, really great gains in our interest revenue has been great, and a lot of just picking and choosing where we're investing. I think our team here that works every day in the office has really done a great job of trimming the fat around all of our learnings and coming up with creative solutions. I know Judy has spearheaded all of our small events that people love, and continuing that, I think that's a great way of doing new and inventive things. Also, we've had a lot more varied recreation programs that have brought in a lot more income than we've seen. So to continue all of the diversity of those programs, but I care that everyone on the board is very fiscally responsible and has been, I think, doing a good job of handling the money. I feel like our council made good hands and people on the board are sort of like really smart. I mean, we have great people who do well in finance, and we all have different strengths, and we have some great strengths in our finance area and work. So I really good.
I was taking in all the information that Jordan was sharing. That's great insight that I don't currently have, obviously not being on the board. All I have to go on as a homeowner is annual report that I printed out from the website. And I was looking at the community enhancement fees because I'm aware that it's based on the resale of homes at, what is it, 1/4%. And just seeing how we've been trending in the last 3 years, and I really need my glasses to see this number here, but needless to say, I do see where it has gone down as in part due to the low inventory of homes. So I think what I would need to do is, in conjunction with the board, understanding on where we are spending some of this money, like looking at the administrative operations. It does sound like, we have trimmed the fat, we're doing a good job of looking to see where we can minimize that further, but I really need to have a better understanding of where that money's going and, what the fees are that are coming in. The community partnerships, I think, is a good opportunity as well to see how we could tap into that for more revenue. I do see where we do have revenue from events and programs. I'm not 100% sure where that's coming from, so I'd be interested in understanding that and maybe how we can leverage that a bit more to offset expenses. I know one of the things we hear homeowners talk a lot about are the HOA fees that go towards their maintenance of their properties. So the last thing I'd want to do is, suggest to homeowners that maybe they contribute to offset the expense of some of our events. I know they pay for wristbands for some of the events, but so I really wouldn't want to look in that direction per se. Just leverage more of the community partnerships and figure out how we can better manage, maybe with the contract with vendors. Look at those contracts and see what renegotiation opportunities we have.
So Emery, we'll start with you on this next question. So LARCS manages and has the oversight over the community's intranet, laderalife.com. What goals do you have to continue to improve the website and encourage interaction with residents?
Well, I personally find that the content from Ladera Ranch totally suits my needs. I find that it's easy to navigate. I feel that it's kept current and relevant. I find that it's easy to do pickleball and tennis bookings easily, or just sort of a clubhouse. So I think just making sure the speed is there and response whenever people are clicking on the hyperlinks to get information. And that we're making sure that the information is kept current. A lot of what we need to do is get the feedback from the residents and understand, hey, when you're using the website, do you go and pull information from the website? And maybe people prefer that we push it through the emails and through the magazine. So you know, maybe a monkey survey, say, are you using the website? I'm sure we track clicks. I think I saw that somewhere, that we do track clicks on the website. So it'd be interesting to know where exactly people are navigating to, what information people are looking for, and those are the areas to either focus on and perhaps maybe drop some of the other content that people aren't coming into the website to pull. So that's really easy.
When I first was on tech, for most of my career there, I actually pulled all the analytics for Ladera Life, so I was responsible every meeting for providing all the analytics there. So I kind of got to see where everyone was clicking, what people were doing when they were not finding things and clicking away. I think the biggest, and I've sent many suggestions to the board over the years, and some are easy implementations and some are more complicated. I definitely would love for, when you hit the homepage, I kind of want to see the latest and greatest event right away. So if you recently clicked the homepage, you get a little pop-up that said, hey, we're doing the candidates night this Wednesday. I would like to see kind of more of that and not necessarily just in pop-ups. And now I'm getting into my digital design world, so maybe this is too in the weeds. I don't like slideshows on home pages. Right now, they're just a bunch of pretty photos. I wish they would have all the upcoming events right on the homepage that I can click on right away and not have to click through events to get there. I think overall, there's too many clicks to get to where you need to be on the site. I don't think it's as user-friendly as it could be. When people are looking for phone numbers on LARCS, it's kind of especially very, you have to sometimes click 2 times to get in emails and phone numbers that you need as a resident. Some of the stuff in Ladera Life, I think we need to go where people are. And a lot of people don't really use websites anymore. Like me as a resident, I go to book my son's tennis every week. I go onto Ladera Life to get my reservations or buy that wristband or something. But that's kind of all I do. I would like there to be more done to get the homeowners and get them the information easier. We talked in the last year or two about setting up a text alert system for residents. I would love to see that happen where residents can opt in and get important text messages about stuff that's going on, even if it's like a brownout at the water park, or it's, you know, last day to buy that wristband for 4th of July or something like that, or even, you know, road closures, things like that. I would love to see something like that. And that's not on the website. I think getting ahead of news and reaching out where people are on social. So it's not just on, I have talked to you on the website to find out more stuff. I think we get on Instagram and Facebook, get that information more accessible, because you know what, people are kind of lazy, like all of us are. We don't want to be going to those different places. We just want to get our little digestible information. And I think that's just better for the community.
As a board member, how would you engage with the community to best determine the needs of the residents? How would you incorporate resident feedback into decisions regarding community events?
All right, well, as I said before, we do have that feedback system in place, which is kind of all the people who have poor opinions like to come and voice them, and we don't always hear about the positive things, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way the world works. So definitely trying to do a better outreach for that feedback. Now, what I've noticed as, you know, as we're there being on all those Facebook groups, and there are so many of them now, and I think I know most of them, except for their dads. So I just get my husband to like let me read some of the most salacious threads whenever they happen, which on our hand, his dads are pretty warm most of the time. But I think there's so much more we can do for awareness. Like, for example, whenever I see kind of big important news from Ladera, like I will share it, because most of the time I find that someone will see something happening and they don't know what's happening and they're freaked out for some reason. And most of the time they're freaked out for the wrong reason and they don't have all the information. Oh my God, they're tearing up all these plants along the median. What's happening? Those are beautiful trees, or these are beautiful things. Well, there's a whole context behind that tree removal. So how can we get ahead of that in posting in all those places and finding all those people? So I really think that we can do a better job of sharing that. I mean, I try to do as much as I can myself, but I think we can just be a little bit more targeted. And unfortunately too, places like Facebook, people are aging out of it. Like a lot of people, even, you know, at my school, don't even use it. They just use Instagram, or they use, most of them use Instagram or like TikTok or things like that. And the newsletter is wonderful, but people read it, and why is that? So I think there's some deeper dives, and we need to take in some of that data to find out like how we can better share. I share as much as possible, but there needs to be more, like a friendly faces, like sometimes it can be two faces, I feel like, for each other. And I love when we did the personalized videos, we had like our team board members, team TAC member come and do these fun little videos for people around the community. Stuff like that where it's more personal.
As a board member, how would you engage with the community to best determine the needs of the residents? How would you incorporate resident feedback into decisions regarding community events?
Well, one idea I had is I know we have the new residents, or new homeowners meeting, but I don't believe we have like a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year club meetings where we get together with longtime homeowners such as our mom sitting here in the audience, such as myself, to say, hey, we've been around a while, what's working, what's not working. So if we actually had some kind of social gathering, where we would have like these 5, 10-year clubs, 5, 10, 15, et cetera clubs, I think we could leverage those to get feedback from people in a less structured way, so to speak. Big fan of surveys, but not big long surveys. Like, and also you need to incent people. Like I know we've gone on Norwegian cruises and they send me a little survey after, and they give me like the equivalent of $1 to spend on my next, cruise. So if you do 15 surveys, you get $15. And I know the budget is what it is, but maybe we could be creative and thinking about, well, you complete the survey, at the end of the survey, you get a Ladera buck, and then you can, after a certain point, use those at the festivals, you're able to buy food that in it. But just to incent people to respond and just make sure we're really tight on the survey, because I know once I'm on page 6 or 7 of the survey, I was interested. Even when we say this will only take a few minutes of your time, times. So really being smart about how we survey people, try to figure a way maybe to incent them, like I said, the long timer club. I was thinking also it'd be nice to have like heart rep neighborhoods, like have sister neighborhoods, like your sister cities around the world and across the country where, maybe Sterling Glen too gets together with St. Mary's, and I'm not quite sure how to get feedback in those instances, but I think I'd like to see more interaction at that level, perhaps, to figure out, because then people start talking, maybe someone, like the neighborhood rep says, hey, what did you think of that last event at Founders Park? So I think the challenge though ultimately is how to engage people, and surveys is one way, and I guess it's really word of mouth, asking people, what are your thoughts on such and such. So it's a challenge, it is a challenge, because even getting people here tonight or to vote, I know we're talking to Ashley, she shared like what our percentages for participation it is definitely a challenge. So we have lots of communication channels out there, and I think it's just figuring out which ones are the ones that are going to get the most response from residents.
What is the most important thing that you would like to see changed or improved upon during your tenure as elected?
I was looking at the list of events from last year. I think we have phenomenal turnout for the summer concert series. We estimated about 11,000. July 4th is very popular. So I think one of the things I'd like to see, maybe setting a threshold for which events where we don't have as much of an interest, to identify those earlier on and maybe start to phase those out a bit and replace them with something else that might be of more interest to homeowners. I think we do LARCS does a phenomenal job with the variety and also the continuity. I mean, everyone looks forward to the 4th of July. I mean, that's a huge turnout for fireworks. So I think we do a really good job with the variety of events and programs, maybe asking people like what their interest is for volunteerism so we can get more people on board, because obviously we're more passionate about volunteerism, we have more of a vested personal interest in it. So I'd like to see, maybe some more variety in the outreach programs as well. And really, I think I worked with the teams at the Easter, the spring fling, and they were awesome. Just to really figure out also how to get the teams more involved in some of those activities. So identifying what is of interest to people, what's their passion, where do you want, and put some focus on that.
Joy.
One of my big goals, as having been a neighborhood rep, and then having been on the board too, that I would like to see totally overhauled is our whole neighborhood rep and neighborhood activity coordinator thing and how that's done. Because I find that we're always searching for volunteers and better volunteers and more happening in the community. I think so many neighborhoods, they don't have reps or they don't know what's available to them as being in that position and what they can offer their neighborhood and why it's a great thing to be a neighborhood rep or an activity coordinator. And I think it just goes back to when you look at the map of all of our neighborhoods and how we have so many areas for reps to represent. There are too many. There's literally a neighborhood next to mine that's a single road street of one block that's its own neighborhood with its own reps, which is insane to me. I feel like they don't currently reflect the real neighborhoods where people are socializing. So my neighborhood is actually made up technically of 3 of these neighborhoods in the neighborhood activity coordinator rep system. And that all could be one neighborhood. Do we need to have a rep for the LARCS and the LARMAC side? Is that really necessary too? Could it be one person? I feel like there could be a lot of changes made that would have more neighborhoods have these reps, have more opportunities to get together, to get to know neighborhoods. The reps that we do have, I want to empower them to be able to easily reach out to their community. I know when I became the rep, I said, well, how do I contact everyone? Well, you have to get everyone's email address and phone number. And I'm like, well, what, I have to knock on people's doors or these flyers? And thankfully, I inherited a list from my neighbor. She had a bunker list of moms. So I got her list, you know, and then I cobbled together another list from, you know, my neighbor down in Shively. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why can I not go on a website, plug in, log in, say I'm the rep, and blast on everyone? I don't need to know for privacy reasons. I don't need to know all their emails, but at least I can blast all my neighbors and communicate with them, and it always be up to date instead of me tracking down that new homeowner that moved in a week ago, you know? So that could be way different and way better. So that's like a pet project of mine that I've had for a few years now that I really would love to see implemented, and I'm always talking to TAC about it to figure out how we can do it.
Joya, the next question is for you. Please provide your description of the role of the LARCS board member.
The main role of the LARCS board member is to represent the resident. You're given this honor of being a voice for a lot of different people, and I take that really seriously. For me as a board member, I think I have a responsibility to be in touch with a lot of parts of the community, to get their voice and opinions, and to bring those concerns and those ideas back to the board. I think as a board member, I think you just have to have the pulse of the community, sort of like I said, like, and know sort of what's going on in all the different events and know people. It's really helped for me as a board member to know people on a lot of the different committees and to have relationships with them. So I always know what's going on. And I think kind of bringing all those voices together. And then also just as a board member, you want someone who just cares deeply about the community. I know everyone cares deeply. I care, everyone who's on the board who volunteers care about it. You already know your, you know, regardless of who you're electing, you're getting that person, which is amazing. I just think really just being that voice for people who maybe don't know how to contact someone or express an opinion, but they know that you're on the board, so they can talk to you and you can be their voice.
I was like, well, what is the role of a, you know, before I applied for this, I should know what I'm getting into, right? So on the website, it very well articulate, not articulate, it didn't speak to me, but it outlines what the roles and responsibilities are for planning events, providing programs, planning activities, encouraging interaction. So it does a good job of enumerating what the actual action items are, foster a strong sense of community through all of the above, the activities, events, etc. And it said creating a lifestyle programming. I wasn't 100% sure what that was. I was going to ask Judy to get back to the lifestyle programming. But, you know, it's really just, I think, having a passion for the community and enjoy that, having that voice. You know, you just have a vested interest. You want to see Ladera continue to thrive and people love living here. You don't want to see this mass evacuation because people just aren't happy living in the community. You don't feel that sense of belonging. So I think, you know, the LARCS board member is that voice, it's the representation and just being in touch with what's going on in the community, showing up at the events, the activities and talking to people and just doing like the actual responsibilities, but being approachable. I think, you know, that's key, having the relationships and people feel that, you know, they can like, I don't think they'd call me per se, but like then approach you and just say, hey, I have an idea. You know, and that you listen to people and you respond and you act upon whatever it is your concerns are. So it's just being an advocate. That's the word I'm going to do for the people.
Please share what you believe to be the primary function of LARCS.
And correct me if I'm wrong, for the board members in the room. But the primary role is to really foster that sense of community. And that is done through the events and the programs and the clubs. Just to give the opportunity for people to come together and spend time together and get to know each other as neighbors, as residents, And the volunteerism is very important. I love that we have a focus on the team of the teens. I love that we have the scholarship offering for the teens as well, going to college. That to me is the primary function, is to really oversee all these different offerings that we have and make sure we're getting the right activities out there that people want to participate in. Did I get it right? Did I nail it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely number one is for all of us is to deliver that sense of community. Being on the LARCS board, you want to have all your residents love living in there. Just by fact of what they get out of their community, what they get as a homeowner. You know, obviously LARMAC, you get your nice lawn cut and you get your nice trees and everything, but we're really about making those lifelong friendships. I mean, in all these other neighborhoods that I came from, I mean, I barely knew the neighbors, you know, and there was not that sense of community. And this is why we choose Ladera. And so as a board, you know, we really want to create the types of events that, you know, and I mentioned earlier tonight, that are meaningful for everyone and that cater to the young and to the old and to the small families and to the singles and to, you know, every type of group with every kind of background. I think that's our job. And I think everyone who's on the board takes that really seriously and takes it to heart, because we want to be proud of our community. We want to tell our neighbor, like, have you heard about this latest greatest event? And like, we're the biggest champions of Ladera. All the volunteers.
I have a submitted question here that came in today, and then we'll finish off with one final question. And Joy, we'll start with you on this one. So as I believe you both know, right, we have developers have a vote as well as homeowners. We have apartment owners / developers that do receive a percentage of the vote based on the apartment units that they own. And so the question is, in the kind of spirit of transparency, do you have any personal or professional relationships with the developers or apartment owners? I'll start with you.
I have no personal or professional relationships with any of the apartment owners. I'm not aware of, I have not yet spoken to any of them. If the part of the question is about like how are we better integrating them into?
No, I think it's just more about, do you have any affiliation? Yeah, like
If it's
with
strictly
them.
a conflict of yes and no, I have no conflict.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
I can show the questions when I see.
I felt like you started with that.
Yeah. No,
Okay. Perfect, thank you. So the final question, Henry, what is your primary objective for running for the board?
I love living in Ladera, and I just want to be as integral as I can to just continue to make this like a wonderful place to live. You know, when people talk about, oh, Ladera Ranch, I know that town. I know they have all these great activities, and people want to come over for the July celebration. It's so fabulous. I just want to be involved. I think LARCS, the board, does a phenomenal job. So I'm not coming in looking to say, well, you know, there's been some issues, we could improve this. I just want to be a part of all the goodness that's already happening, you know, and just be able to contribute my skill sets and my experience as a homeowner, and, you know, talking to my neighbors and just bring that to the table and just continue to do all the good things that are available today.
Joy.
I think for myself, I think I'm just really trying to build upon what I've been doing already on the board. I think, you know, when I first joined the board as a non-voting member, it was kind of under the promise that eventually I would run for the board, and it was always my goal to run and to sort of be that voice. I think for me, I think it's so far in all the volunteer roles I've had, it's been a privilege to have the ear of so many different groups in Ladera, whether it's at the school or at Girl Scouts or in my neighborhood or other like cultural groups that I'm involved in. And I think for me, you know, I think I feel like I'm privileged to have the ear of all those people, and I want to represent them, and I want them to know that I care about them and their experience of living here.
Thank you. Great job. You guys did it.
Thank you very much, both of you, for being here this evening and applying for an open seat on the LARCS Board of Directors. We also look forward to seeing all of the neighborhood representatives at the LARCS selection meeting. That will be at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, June 5th, here at the Oak Knoll Village Clubhouse. And again, you should be receiving notices beginning tomorrow over the next few days. It does take a few days to get all the notices out. Voting is open through Friday, May 31st until 5 p.m. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
please check the
please check your spam. Yes, and like I mentioned below, if you do not receive it for some reason, please go to Ladera Life. There are instructions there on how to contact Tide Vote, so you can receive the instructions and place your vote. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.